I want to talk to you about two of your books. One was Bushy Head, obviously, in 2021. I believe you put it out. I wanted to tell our listeners more about that. And I also saw this video where I believe it was your daughter who donated her hair as well. So tell me all about it, whatever you can share with our listeners.
Bushyhead is one of my favorite children's books that I've written because it came out of, well, first of all, having a daughter with very curly hair.
Mhm.
And so many people tried to tell me to tame it. I had people
Mhm.
telling me to straighten it. I had even people from my own community saying that I should, comb it properly. But there was just such beauty in seeing this free little toddler running
Yeah.
around with this mass of curls. And I never wanted her to feel, as I did when I was young, that something was wrong with her hair. That you had to,
Hmm.
because I mean, when I was young, my hair was straightened, it was set on rollers. There was no freedom in that. Couldn't go swimming
Hmm.
because, my mom would say, well, I just did your hair. Um, Straight hair was obviously the more desired hair to have. As you know, all these things have come out of colonialism.
Yeah.
Um, I did not want that for my daughter. So I knew that one day I was going to write a book.
Hmm.
But again, the story was not fully formed. But when my niece in the United States, and when my niece in Canada and my daughter were
Hmm.
all teased at school for having this kind of hair,
Hmm.
they were all told they couldn't be princesses on the playground because princesses didn't have curly hair. I knew right there and then that this was going to be a book. But when two of them donated their hair to make human hair wigs for
Yeah.
children who did not have hair, I thought the character in Bushyhead is definitely going to do the same.
Hmm.
So that's where the whole thing came out of, embracing the hair that you have on your head, and just putting it out there into the world that
Hmm.
you can't change your hair. It does not say anything about your professionalism or who you are as a person. And I think these core beliefs need to be given to children. The younger, the better.
Yeah.
It's so much better to have that self worth when you're young than trying to unlearn all the negative messages that you've got from childhood when you're older. So this was the purpose of Bushyhead.
One of the reviews I read, and the person said that, hey, Peta-Gaye, I ordered a copy of the children's book, Bushy Head, and read it. What a lovely little gem. It must become compulsory reading in every elementary school. Very good illustrations, too.
Oh.
When you see that, when you hear that, how do you feel about that, Peta-Gaye?
I feel good, and I wish every library would also feel the same way and order. It feels good. It feels good. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm doing my part. I have a value, and it feels like I'm doing something about showing the world,
Hmm.
because a lot of people don't think of this. If you don't have curly hair, how would you
Yeah.
know what it's
Hmm.
like? I remember going into a hospital, and because this is not just about black or mixed women.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm in the elevator and I hear a little tiny voice saying, "Why doesn't my hair look like yours? Yours is so pretty." And I look down and it's this little girl. She's white with curly hair. And I
Hmm.
couldn't believe that she was even thinking that her hair wasn't beautiful. And
Hmm.
I looked down and I said, "Your hair is beautiful just the way it is." And
Yeah.
that is the message of Bushyhead. You know,
Hmm.
you are beautiful just the way you are.
Absolutely, 100%. I'll put the link to that in the show notes as well. So
Thank you.
before we get into the final segments, I want to talk very briefly about the told ya stories as well. I heard on the Nikki Clark show that they were telling about the reason why you called it told ya. I want to tell our listeners also why it is called that.
Is this the awful story of
It is that one that you told, yeah, about your father's friend, yeah.
Okay, so I have fictionalized a few of my father's stories. They were
Mhm.
absolutely fascinating. When you come from a small island, people become characters. And there
Hmm.
was this one man who basically decided that he was going to, stop eating, and he died in his house.
Hmm.
And my father went to the door, and one of the young ladies who was a friend of this man wanted to see the person.
Hmm.
And my father said, "Do not go in. He does not look the same. You don't want to see this." And she said, "I have to see. I have to see."
Hmm.
So, of course, the body had decomposed for a few days. And
Of
when she
course.
went and saw it, she was in complete horror
Hmm.
and shock. And my father was like, "Told you." So, this book is not to be politically correct. And again, it is at a certain point in time. It took me 8 years to revamp this manuscript. It had been
Hmm.
redone, re edited so many times. And I'm very proud of it because I think it represents the immigrant journey of
Hmm.
Jamaicans to Canada, as well
Hmm.
as Jamaicans living in Jamaica of a certain age in a certain time.
Hmm.
Um, I really tried to get the voices in this book right.
Hmm.
The characters. I listened to people. I made notes. I'm so excited about it. But
Hmm.
it's not light, happy reading. Let's just say it can be quite dark in in the stories. Um, One of them happens right here in Canada, in Brampton, about a white woman who hits down a young black boy, and the whole racial thing, and how she comes to terms with it, or try
Yeah.
to. So I think I just got to keep going. I'm very proud of this piece of work, but admittedly, it's very hard to start again,
Hmm.
knowing the amount of effort that took. Just to
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to bring that into existence took a lot.
Absolutely. Like you just said, wow, like 8 years it took you, you know. I think like I
Mhm.
remember I was listening that you said that it was a collection of all the stories throughout your life you have heard. And I love the something that you said, which is basically the life of an immigrant is. You know, you said that the characters in the stories are flawed, politically incorrect, you know, they are navigating life and shocked at the experiences that befall them. And that's exactly what a general human's life is, you know, dark, light, everything that comes and goes in your life, and you
Yes.
learn to kind of like live around it basically. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and try to make sense of it all.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. I love this. I would let the listeners read more about it, and I'll put the links to that in the show notes as well. So, Peter, again, in my second season of the podcast, I've added this new segment. It's called Know Your Host, where I give my guests an opportunity to ask me any question they might have.
My question is, what was your best experience about coming to Canada?
Wow, that's a loaded question, you know. um, Best experience. It's so hard to choose one. So I'll tell you the best experience I had this year. I got the opportunity to be on the podcast for Red FM, and I actually went to the studio in Brampton. Amazing host, you know, her name is Manmeet, and she runs the show called Samundro Par. I was there. It was in Punjabi for the first time. I mean, I couldn't even imagine that, yes, a lot of Punjabi speakers are there in Canada, but being able to, having this opportunity to go on this certain podcast where I'm giving an interview in Punjabi, and that too live interview, which is going live in GTA for that 1 hour or so. That was a magical
Oh,
experience for me. And I think it's probably the highlight of my year 2024. And on top of that, I feel like the reason that particular interview was so special for me because Manmeet, the host, she was so invested in my story. She was so curious about my journey and my thick accent, because I did tell people about my thick accent as well. You know, the podcast, the stories I bring on, the season one, season two, everything I told people about it. And being able to have this platform where I feel comfortable and being able to share about my journey and about the work I'm doing, it was just amazing. And I think she really created an amazing space for me. And I really, really enjoyed being on that podcast. And I think I really touched upon some sections of my immigrant journey on that podcast, which I never shared in my life with anybody, not even my parents, to be honest with you. But I shared there
Wow.
on the podcast. And the cherry on the cake was that it was in Punjabi, which I really, really enjoyed. There's something about, expressing yourself in our own language, which is unexplainable in any other language. So yeah, definitely that was the best moment for 2024. Yeah.
Gosh, I was just about to ask a second question. Do you feel different expressing yourself in Punjabi than in
I
English?
do, right? Because that's what the language I've been speaking growing up. And I think it happens in terms of a praying also, right? Like, for example, that I have forged relationship with God or higher power, whatever people believe in. I have forged relationship by speaking in Punjabi, right? After coming here, I have got exposed to different religions, languages, cultures, right? And I understand where they are coming from also. And I embrace it also. Like, I really like talking to people, their cultures, their religions, learn about it. And I respect that. But there is no way I can forget the way of communicating with God in my language, right? That's different. That's something which is very personal to me, no matter how many languages I learn. But Punjabi has always been my language of expression and communicating, with the higher power. So yeah, definitely. It's different, totally different in
Wow,
Punjabi. Yeah,
that's so good to know. Talking with someone else from a different culture really opens our eyes, our minds, our hearts.
absolutely. Yeah,
So important.
yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Thank you for the questions, very unique questions, and I love them. Thanks. Um, so now it's my turn. I am going into the final segment of the podcast. I call it Beneath the Accent because we are knowing each other beneath the accent. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. You can answer them in one word or a sentence or however you feel like. The idea is just to know more about Peta-Gaye. Okay, so ready?
Okay, ready.
What advice would you give to your younger self and at what age?
I replay this all the time. I don't know where I would intervene. Sometimes I think I would intervene in my teenage years, but no, I really do want a time machine because I would go back to that moment when I am 4 years old and I'm first learning the word divorce, or I'm starting to pick up on negative cues around me. And I would say to that 4 year old, I love you. You're going to have a great life. Don't worry so much. You're going to be okay. I would hug my 4 year old self and I would say, promise me that you believe in yourself and all that you can do, no matter what anyone tells you, no matter what you're called, just believe in yourself and follow your dreams. That's what I would say. My intervention would come early.
Hmm. Wow. Very, very powerful. I love that. Um, okay. Second, describe a moment when you experienced a significant cultural difference that surprised you.
There have been so many, but the one that I remember that's at the forefront of my mind right now is the whole thing of using Mr. and Mrs. and a last name. When
Hmm.
I came to Canada in 2002, even though I had lived here before,
Yeah.
I went into my workplace and was first official job, and I called my boss Mr. and his last name, and everyone just sort of, tittered. And I thought to myself, well, I'm being respectful,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
but I realized it wasn't done. And that was a really odd cultural difference for me. But the same thing happened when I went back to Jamaica this past summer, 2024, with my daughter. She was confused about what to call people
Hmm.
because in Canada, she calls my friends by their first
First
name.
names. Yeah.
In Jamaica, they said, "Oh, hello, I am Auntie, may not be related by blood."
Exactly. Yeah.
And she would look at me all confused. Do I call her Auntie so and so? And I
Mhm.
just said, yes.
Oh wow.
Different place, different culture.
Yeah, yeah, very small, small nuances. Like also we call sir or madam back in India to our professors, but here they call by the first name, and it was a little awkward for me initially, but okay, now I've got a hang of it. Yeah.
I remember walking Sherway Gardens with my dad, who had come from Canada, and I do believe it was a young man who was Punjabi or maybe somewhere else in India, and he called my father uncle, and my dad would not understand that, and I grabbed him and I said, "Dad, he just showed you a sign of respect."
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Oh my God, this reminds me another story. I was sharing this apartment with somebody, and I told him my landlord used to live on the basement, and we were on this first floor, and we were there, and I told him, "Oh, uncle is calling you regarding something." He said, "Uncle, which uncle?" And I said, "The landlord." He said, "Why are you calling him uncle? He's not your uncle." I said, "Oh, okay." So because it comes naturally to me, we call older people uncle or
Yes.
aunt. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Why are you calling him uncle? I
Yeah.
love that.
Okay.
Ah.
Tell me about this one dish from your home country, Peta-Gaye, that always brings you comfort and nostalgia.
Oh, apart from a nice big juicy mango, okay. Um, I do love ackee and codfish. And the reason why, well, first of all, it's Jamaica's national dish,
Okay.
but I love it because ackee, which originally came from West Africa, as far as I remember, grows on a tree, but the pod has to open. If you force it open, it's
Oh,
poisonous
I
and could
see.
make you very sick.
Hmm.
So, the pod opens, you pick out the yellow fleshy thing and you cook it. You have to cook it.
Hmm.
And it's cooked with codfish. And it's so funny because this was introduced to feed the slaves, right?
Really?
They wanted a cheap meal to feed the slaves. So they would cook ackee with cod from Canada.
Hmm.
So the
Wow.
countries, we are all linked in this world. When we think that we have, one country has nothing to do with another, it's so untrue. We're just all linked in some way. Anyway, the cod came from Canada, from, I guess, the Atlantic provinces, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and it has gone on to become the national dish of Jamaica,
Hmm.
and seasoned very well, of course, with onion and other things. I'm not a great cook, but eating ackee and codfish it reminds me of my grandmother.
Hmm. Of
It
course.
reminds me of when I lived in the States, going home to visit her and her making ackee and me saying, I don't want to eat that because it wasn't American food, and then
Hmm.
slowly getting used to it and realizing my grandmother is an amazing cook. And yeah, ackee and codfish, it's just
Hmm.
everything.
Love
Home,
that.
it means home, it means family.
Yeah, that brings nostalgia and comfort, right? Of course.
Mhm.
I'm just curious, like, what kind of food do you guys make at home right now? Since it's a mixture of multiple cultures in the house. So, how is that like?
Well, first, let me start by saying that we are not very traditional with our roles. My husband is a much better cook than I am. He's from Jamaica and he does most of the meal planning. So, him loving cooking, I'm very spoiled. Very. My kids and I were just very spoiled. And it ranges from Jamaican to Italian to basically everything.
Okay.
Uh, Very lucky to have someone else do this for me because, to be honest, not my thing.
Hmm. Okay.
If I could, I would eat out every single day just to not have to cook.
All right.
But we
Got
have
it.
everything, We do Mexican, we do Jamaican, we do Indian. We do Indian. Yes, we
Okay.
do.
Next time, you are here in Montreal, I'll cook for you for sure.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, I'll be there next weekend.
Awesome. Um, Tell me about a favorite cultural festival or a celebration in Canada and how do you celebrate it?
My favorite. Okay, here's the thing. I love crowds sometimes, not all the time. My
Okay.
husband doesn't. So we do not partake in so many as before, but I do love Caravana.
Hmm.
I love Caravana for the music, for the food, for the costumes. Actually, I don't think it's called Caravana anymore. I am definitely dating myself. That's what it was called when I first came to Canada. It's now called something else, the Caribbean Cultural Festival.
I've heard
But
Caribbean, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that is one of my favorites. But I also love other cultural festivals that sometimes I just happen to come across. There's a Latin festival where there's a lot of salsa dancing in
Hmm.
Toronto.
Yeah.
I think I'm drawn to color, dance, music, and food. So wherever those are all combined,
Hmm.
I love that.
Hmm.
And it doesn't really matter which festival. I think it's just a great opportunity to experience something different.
Hmm. Color, dance, food. That sounds like an Indian wedding to me.
Love Indian weddings. I went to one last year. It was
Oh, wow.
fantastic.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome. Okay. Tell me about the first friend that you made in Canada. And are you still in touch with them?
Yes. Okay. I am going way back to 13th grade when this Canadian, she was black, is black, came up to me and she was excited that someone like me, different, because I lived in Burlington.
Okay.
At the time, there was not a lot of diversity in Burlington. So she was, I think, my first friend, and we lost touch for many, many years. Now she organizes a lot of cultural festivals in Burlington, and um, she said that she I said something to her so long ago that had always upset her. I didn't even know that I said it, but she told me, we were all young at the time, she told me that she was pregnant. And my first response was, why? And she said, I always thought about that and wondered why you said that. And I said, again, if I could just make that time machine and go back in time, I would be so very different. I would have hugged you. I would have told you congratulations and that everything is going to work out. Um, I would not have responded that way. But I think I said why because I just could not imagine being so young, having children, and not having looked after myself or pursuing my dreams.
Hmm.
You know, she had gotten pregnant and she wasn't married yet, and it would prove to be a very long journey, but she has proved to be amazing, resilient, an incredible mother. And although we don't see each other very much, at least we have Instagram and WhatsApp to keep in touch. But that was my first friend. And also a good lesson in not just saying whatever comes out of your
The
mouth.
mind. Absolutely. Wow, I love that story. Do you have, Peta-Gaye, any funny stories related to your accent or English? Or maybe like a certain word that you mispronounced or some mishap, anything around it?
You know what? I have issues with the word comfortable versus comfortable.
Okay.
I would love someone to tell me why is it that everyone else says comfortable and in North America it's comfortable. I think this word has changed over time.
Hmm.
But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because I also do some English examining and I've been told that comfortable is incorrect.
Hmm.
But I
Okay.
cannot feel that this word is incorrect because so many people, Indian, Jamaican, Caribbean, say comfortable.
Yeah. We do.
So I've really been forcing myself now to say comfortable. Comfortable. I have to practice it. But what's a funny story? It's not so funny in that when my daughters came here. They were little girls and they had these strong Jamaican accents.
Mhm.
They said they quickly learned that people would just hear the accent and not try to understand.
Yeah.
That was their first lesson at age 6 and 3. So they purposely tried to speak like a Canadian. And it worked,
Mm.
except for some words that were just so stubborn. And they say, Mom, to this day, we still get, laughed at, not laughed at, but friends just making fun with them. They're like, I just got laughed at again for saying mascara. And
Hmm.
I said, what's wrong with mascara?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
that's a word. No, it's mascara. And I'm like, okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So certain words have been stubborn still in their
Hmm.
vocabulary. You
Yeah.
learn what you learn.
Absolutely. There are so many words that I think I still kind of like say the same way. For some reason, the word shower, like it's shower or I always say shower. I'm going to go take a shower, and I think that comes from the word power and par, and that's kind of like stays in my
Mm.
mind. And I always say when I say like, okay, I'm going to take a shower, and my friends will be like, why? What is shower? I'm like, okay, shower, I'm going for that. That always happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you went to the deep south in America, they would speak completely differently than we do, and it's really just a matter of getting your ear tuned to that new sound, but it's not easy.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah. So I have another question that is there something that you ate for the first time in Canada?
Would be pierogies.
I don't even know what is
Pierogies.
that.
Pierogies, I believe, is I think it's from Ukraine or Poland.
Okay.
And when I had pierogies for the first time, for me, this is not Caribbean food, but there's just something about a dumpling kind of food that is just so hard to resist.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to make pierogies, not from scratch, just the frozen. Didn't work out as well. My children can do it a lot better. And it's actually so delicious.
Okay. Mm.
It's something so different from my culture, but yeah, I'm making myself hungry right now just thinking about it. But that was something that I'd never heard of before
Mm.
I left Jamaica to come here.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. I might try it at some time. Uh, tell me if you could describe yourself as any creature, animal, bird, anything, what would it be and why?
A dolphin.
Okay.
Definitely a dolphin. Because I love the water so much. I
Mm-hmm.
always want to be in the water. I don't want to be far from water. Um, I wish my life was just spent on a boat or
Mm.
in a house by the sea, frolicking. I know that is totally ridiculous. We need to work, we need to be productive.
Yeah.
Yes, I am ambitious, but I do love my fun time. And a dolphin, you see it just jumping up out of the water and down, frolicking. It's with friends.
Yeah.
They're traveling in groups. Uh, they're in the sea where I really just want to be all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. What about you?
Me. Um. Hmm. Could be any creature. I think definitely a bird. More of like an eagle. I would say.
Mm,
Because I just wanna fly high and be open and kind of be up in the air, and it's also the bird which one of our gurus actually had, and that kind of like
mhm.
symbolizes that only the strength, the power, the sharpness, and kind of the go for it mentality that it has. So I
I
think
love that.
definitely I think I would be an eagle. Yeah,
I love that. Soaring above everything.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you could create this one law that everybody has to follow, what would it be?
Everyone has to be respectful to each other. Everyone has to be kind. Kindness would become the culture.
Hmm.
And I know that sounds strange because it's not really a law, um, but I think that's really important to me. If we're going with an actual law, I would have to go with a traffic law. You know what really bugs me,
Hmm.
Gracies? What really bugs me is the fact that pedestrians are walking while cars are turning. I don't think this should ever happen.
Hmm.
I think that all cars should stop.
Hmm.
People can wait another minute and all pedestrians go. I saw this done in New Zealand. It was the best thing I've ever seen. I still call it the New Zealand crossing. You can cross across the road, you can cross, to the other side. You can go right through the middle, which I love. All cars stop. This
Hmm.
is the safest way. They tried it in Toronto some years back. People didn't like it. And my first thought was, you didn't like it because you weren't being open to something new
Hmm.
that was safer and better for everyone.
I see.
Again, just as the way people are, we don't like change. We don't like to open our minds sometimes to things that are new.
Yeah.
And I thought that this was a moment where we went so wrong in downtown Toronto. We went so wrong here.
Hmm.
Um, I would have insisted we need to try this not just for a month or a year. We need to try this for a while, maybe
Hmm.
5 years.
Hmm.
By the end of that 5 years, everyone would be doing it New Zealand style. Nobody would get hit. Pedestrians would not get hit by vehicles who are rushing, trying to turn right. This would be the law, and I think it's so important
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
to fly or be invisible. I just can't choose one. I think because if I could fly, I would fly to the Caribbean or anywhere tropical in the winter.
Hmm.
And if I were invisible, I would jump on a plane
so the
and
purp-
fly.
so the goal is just to go to Caribbean or just go to a warmer place. That's your goal, despite the superpower.
I
Wow.
really like the sunshine. I am so different in the sunshine. I'm so different in the heat. I love it so much. Um, but I really think I already do have a superpower, and it doesn't always work well for me because my superpower is being able to think big, big picture with the world, with history. Less of a superpower is focusing on details,
Hmm.
but being able to focus on the big picture makes me able to think things like this is a cycle.
Hmm.
It may feel bad in the moment. Let's say child rearing. This is a cycle. Everyone has gone through this. I did. My children will when they are parents.
Hmm.
It's that superpower to say, well, let me not be nitpicky now that this is happening because this is just part of a big picture.
Picture. Yeah. Hmm.
Same thing if I'm at work and I'm having a rough day.
Hmm.
What is the big picture? The big picture is to support newcomers, right?
yeah.
So I can focus and say, okay, I have to do this uncomfortable thing to um, to add to the big picture. And I think that is a superpower when you're able to look beyond the little frustrations in life, not get caught up in them and cause arguments, but to
Hmm.
see that there is a bigger picture involved.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We all have those good and bad days, but it's just a bad day, not a bad life.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So
Yes.
finally, Peter-Gaye, how would you describe Canada in one word or a sentence?
Oh my gosh, you've asked me the hardest question. And I think the reason why is a lot of people come to Canada and they just easily accept it as home.
Hmm.
But with my personality, I'm always analyzing and searching and looking in other pastures. How they say the grass
Oh,
is
wow.
greener?
Hmm.
I am forever looking in many other pastures. So it's very hard. I almost feel attached to nowhere.
Hmm. I see.
But if I could describe Canada, I would say safe.
Hmm.
Safe. Canada represents safety to me. And I hope it always stays that way.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Safe to express myself, safe from political violence, safe from crime, um, safe in terms of, you can be who you are, you can express your gender, you can express yourself as a person of color.
Absolutely.
Y- yeah, I love that about Canada.
Yeah.
I feel so safe.
Hmm. I love that. Definitely defines Canada. Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
could leave me, Peter gave with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Keep on inspiring the world with what you're doing. What you're doing is so amazing. Um, I'm so glad that I was introduced to your podcast. I'm now your fan. Um, don't give up on those hard days.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you
Be-
for kind words.
Yeah, because there will always be people listening who might be going through a really hard day,
Yeah.
and what you have to share will help them to know that they're not alone.
100%. Yeah. Thank you for
Mhm.
saying that. And how would you describe your experience being on this podcast today?
Awesome.
Okay.
Absolutely awesome. I was nervous. I'm not usually nervous about speaking out, but I was a little nervous to share things about my life, and you made me feel so comfortable.
I love that. You mean comfortable. Yeah, I got it.
I meant comfortable.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Peter Gay. Really enjoyed this. And thank you for being on
I
the
did too.
podcast and adding value to my listeners. And really, really had a good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
They really hold a deeper meaning for us, right? And when they are not appreciated, what just
Sorry about that.
happened?
That's a light that goes off automatically.
It's okay. Best experience. It's so hard to choose one.
Okay, for my single friends, are you married?
What? No, I'm not married. No, I'm not.
That's good to know. Okay, best experience.